Unreal, unspoken, feeling, order to take the borders, to be entertained, not so trained to take the orders. At any state of mind for the mind, for all that matters is just as much of mine. For it to matter to mind, this is what's meant. Besides that, and I, and the be in the end. Bend words like my mass will bend time while some lift. I shape shift the universe to sum it all. Sum it up to add me in the equation. Equators that divide me from you, keep you away from subtracting the train of thought. To keep track of the training of your thoughts and looking over the man of age like the manager of the mankind, for the kind of mankind that loses track of the time. You looking up to the skyline that wasn't minding the business, and you find that's time for business of mine. That you whine, understand the value to having until you were the insubordinate for the told that you couldn't pay attention to that, to say earlier that you quit to lose what I found for you. You're losing track of time, you need the rails, so this is the road for the train that these tracks are mine for the cold. These trains, these are mine for no space station, just a train. You like being entrepreneurs. I internship for the offer that sank the oceans to the seafloors. Just luck you can find carry through the topsman. Drown through your hopes of floating up parades of mine. Raining on a precipitation, the clouds that are mine, the cold, the mines, the train money to get off the track. This to keep going further. The racism, the greyhounds, the protesters, the civil rights to the wounds of the bitten, the bitter hounds. Those black for the whites, the kind of fear the dog, but for the dogs, the toads, the dyslexic to control the fear. Owners never call themselves the dogs, the karma for those sold those souls, the souls of slaves, those who behave that the lower than any heights of the population to become, rather than becoming to be or needing that talk for the any pollination. That's what to be behind that drive, but that which should die. Sting the antidote. Survived it because of the future attempts to destroy the bees for the tip. To be the bee, trade forsaken, that's to take the enslavement for them to see. Be seized, prevented for the not invented for the outcasts and insiders who decided to fate the time to treat it in deforestation. The forefathers of for fate taken away from this eyes to see the bearing witness. Where the whiteness and blindness, the kindly kind, find the light of being blinded by the ignorance we can't see for the light that allows us to see the conundrum, to beat the ceremonies in the blind. Beat to death by beating us to beat the karma that drives the crossroads. Then we get ran over for all the directions. The streets are stripped from our peace and face up the stripes. Just to flag to colonize the colonies and to collect the fees for the degrees that they taught to condition the temperature of the hell to breathe. Hung over the head like climate change. Just to change climate instead of that income. Income became poverty instead of the peace. Became pieces of the bread to death. That they fed us to feed, the feds to hide the Christ for the truth, us thinking we're human. Organ the spirits like the Bible, that was a book of not living. And never giving like the bread of your life. Yahweh is the lighthouse that stands at the seashores, darkens, the oceans, like some waters of Christ that was bled, that was shed, the house of God's kingdom instead. Caught in the shed and we led the sense of misled, and we couldn't read the word. We should find the letters in the seat that was read. Or understand what's translated in Christ's paraphrasing that was never read in colors and labels. Instead of the embodiment of the living statements, and that was to find the living testaments in the rivers of the clouds that are above our heads, and so we're unable to see the star that was born in Christ. Mas, meaning more. Mas, for the ever-living, the Holy Ghost, the resurrection that we get the life of the wake up, the dead for the losing, the snooze, and alarm, the security for the agenda for the Gentiles. Ignorant rats that I have had, please stand like ants to this numbers that alone the strength. We have the numbers to let alone be a never possibility for the let alone be a bank that alone. For the deficit, the poverty, for the knowing the road. The enrichment that is meant for that, the made of cotton that was picked by the slave that couldn't be said, the thirsty be not to be given, but the water for the cotton mountain. The never was said, the unsettled, the never settled, and that was set. Used to be set with needing once, and never needing nothing that was already that we found. Had like this and this is city of Atlantis and the continents that have been said enough of the law, so this will be hidden for the works of a better statement that was admitted to mention. Man manipulated by the devil's entertainment that was televised and living through some people, the revolution, the evolution, the solution, the soldiers to do it. The soldiers, the people that seem to do it. The people like to fear, to sin. Hell is that for the telling me to hear the ears and reasons to believe the hell that wasn't the living. And due to that believing, whatever the devil has said, then what the hell can you be telling God that that's the matter? It's all good enough that God said it was good when he made it. Made that we didn't understand what said. Said you don't fall for that to being cast down by the greatest angels and the loving God, just to be the powerful God for the hell on earth, for that wasn't given to just to be the creator for the heavens. Instead of that, outside of that was above the below the belt for the spiritual boxing trick that was shipped to us to see the drown us in the end of the drought. Give us the life of the Christ for the eternity to correlate to this the corals of the reincarnation like the lottery pool or the gamble of the lamb. There's every sheep that Mary went to weep. Count to go to sleep, or this to prophesize, or her to give the birth, a shepherd for the Lord, for the armies, and this to be the little steeplechasers that's chasing good gods, and people not to chastise, but to baptize of the fear, like the Holy Ghost of John Baptist that was washed in with the blood of the Spirit, for the New Testament, for the gods begotten Yahweh, for the shepherd, for the lamb, then I said I am. More needed to be said than that spoken to hear, for they can't hide for the fear. God, that will find them unhidden, unhinged, and that shut the door of hell's gates, and that the faith of the trapped, the followers of the unsaved, to be content with this and never be needed to have to behave. Benefits of that have been given to have the written the truth. Not deception to let them go for what they thought, for they had the redundancy, for the dunce to wear the hat, and this will be hoped to be everywhere, or where they weren't. When you lost the case of preparation for the scenario, the scenery for the evil wicketry, wiggly, has to ignite the wit for the candle to count. Find the contractions, bound that the bound to sign the Greyhound station. You've been trained for the conductor, for the track, the record, for the you have made the leftover, for the hungry that understand the elements of the table, for the content, for the overstanding of the situation that sat nations, notions. What's all needed to behave, the benefits to be given, that for the written, the truth, and not deception, to let go of what has been taught, just to be the redundancy, for the dunce had to beware, behold, beware. Look for the city of God, and demonstrate that you're not a demon, but you will be straight out. I choose to find what's loose. This is never tight enough for the flyers to grip. Grip that for the sipping of what you find deep inside your mind. Mind your business. What I'm drinking. What I'm thinking. You're thirsty. Dehydrated. Could have made it. But you too faded. Deforestation. Breath for this to find what's for. What's left of the space station. You're out of space. You're thinking this brief thought. Subconscious will be the part of you. But never had the patience to see it part of you. The shadow. Love. Find what's demise. Just to find the colonization for you to be separated from you. Have those feelings of what you feel. But are they real? Find out different time that you don't feel the same. Who's to blame for those who came for you, who died for you, who will risk their life for you, who will live their life for you, who will die for you, who paid the cost for you, who did it all for you with the be not borrowed. He kept looking at you with his eye on a sparrow, narrow-minded path. This is finding a way for the truth lies at a bit of, you can find the difference of this to have the vows. You will find why sometimes A-E-I-O-U rolls off the tongue like you had the reason to be hung on a crossroad pattern. So this is cross-examination. You can examine the famine to those who fiends. find that he will resurrect in you. It should be common sense, but not common to you. That he will be embodied to you, inside the body of you. Like an emblem that you wear on your necklace, for the representation of you. You are 14, carried to go, addressed by the council for the meaning of the road to heaven. No need for maps, no need for doubts, syntax of error. Have more faith than that, don't you? Orders to be entertained, not so trained to take orders at any state, but mind to mind, mind all for the matters, for the not, for much to mind, for the matter, for the mind, for you to find a meaning besides that for nine. Me, and the bend words like man, bend time while I find something to shift and shape the universe and sum it all to add to me to the equation, like equators that divide me from keeping you away from me, for subtracting the train of thought, from keeping track of training your thoughts, lugging over the man of age and the manager of mankind of yours. Mankind to lose track of this time for you looking up to the skyline. It was the mind of the business and the time for the business of mine. The win, understanding the value of having that until later. The insubordinate that I told you to pay attention. You had to say it earlier, you can quick to lose the what's to found for you all of you losing the track, and you can find the time to need for the rails. The road, the train, these tracks of the mind, the cold leaves trains. And mine for no space station, just as trains as you can be. An entrepreneur for the inner chip. Entrepreneur for all for that sank in the ocean, the sea floors, and look with find you could luck. Carry through the talisman for the drowned, the hopes of floating of parades of mine. Raining on precipitation, the clouds that are mine. The cold that mine, the trains, a train that may not find to get off track, and just to go off with the further than the racists and the greyhounds of protesters and civil rights, and your wounds, and just to find what's bitten for the bitter hounds of the blacks and whites, and kind of fear that the dog meant the dogs, and dogs are told that it's dyslexic to control the fear for the owners. They call themselves dogs for the karma for they stolen souls to find the slaves of this behavior. Those are lower than any heights of population to be to become. Rather than becoming for the bee or needing for the tall enough for the anything for the pollination, that is just what to be for the beehive. Drive, not they should die for the steam, that antidote for the survival, no for the because of the future, for the attempts of the tempting of the tip dots, for the destroy your bees and tip that bee. Trade, forsaking what's it taking, enslavement for the meant to see. The seeds preventing after the invented for the outcast. Insiders can decide the faith for the type of the treason, your deforestation for the fathers and forefathers, and faith and death is taken away from the eyes to see the bearing witness, and whiteness and blindness and kind of light beings, and not blinded by the ignorance we can't see. The light that allows it to see what cannot drunk beat the ceremonies and beat that to death with this leading us to beat for the beat for the karma for the drives across the roads that would get ran over for all directions of the streets and stripped us of the peace. Faces us with stripes, this is from a flag of the colonized colonies, and to collect that fees for the degrees that they taught. Condition the temperature for the hell to breathe, and not the hunger over the head like the climate change, and they change the climate instead. Income become poverty instead. Peace become pieces of bread. Death that they fed, that's like fats hid Christ search to find the truth, and this is us, this thinking that we're human more than spirit, and this is the Bible. That was just a book, not living and ever the giving. Like the bread of life that Yahweh is, the lighthouse that stands seahorses and darkness and oceans, and like the water of Christ that bled. Shed house of God's kingdom instead of that called and shed. We lived since misled, couldn't read the words, the letters of the deceit. It was read for the understanding of the translated for the Christ paraphrase. This was never read in colors and labels and said. Embodiment for the living in the statements. We're living in his testaments, and those are rivers from the clouds that are above our heads, and so we are unable to see the star that was born in Christ and lives. More for that than miles, and this for everything. For this will be the Holy Ghost of the resurrection that will give the life. Wake up the dead. Lose that, snooze that, alarm that, security. There's agenda that the Gentiles and ignorant rants, and they have a stand for the dudes like ants. And the numbers of their alone, the strength that we have in numbers, and let that alone be never a possibility to be alone. Be a bank that alone can put a deficit with the poverty, not knowing the royalty and the enrichment. That mint that was made out of cotton, that was picked by the slaves who couldn't be said thirsty to be not given the water for the cotton mouths that be. For those that never said they can't settle, for the never settled that and all but set for you to be set for the needing and wants, and you will never need any other thing. They already have to be found, that this will be the lost city of Atlantis to the continent that's been said. To be lost and hidden was a better statement for the men, for the mention the men who manipulated the devils, and the entertainment for the televised and living room. People of revolution to evolution, the solution to salute the soldiers and to do it. Soldiers are the people that sent to do the people, or to the people for the fear for the what the hell is telling me, for the hear the ears, and that's the reason for the believing the hell is who believe, and living and do to believing it. Whatever the devil has said that this would be the hell that you could be telling. God, the Madison is all good, and God said it was good when he made it. Made that not to understand it. This is what it said for not you to fall, for that to be cast down for the greatest angel, the love to God, to be the power for God in hell on earth. And this wasn't about and given for the creator, for the heavens inside of the outside of this above the belt. The spiritual boxing trick. Shipped to us to see the drown, and this to end the drought. Gives us life for Christ for eternity, for not to correlate the corals. Reincarnation like the lottery pool, the gamble through the lamb, that after the sheep of the Mary that went. Weep that for the counting and to go to sleep. But this was the prophesied for her to give birth. For this is shepherd for the Lord, for the armies and the little to find a steep chase. Steeple chase for the chasing gods and people to chastise and baptize and fear like the Holy Ghost of John the Baptist, not washed by the blood and spirit, for the New Testament for the God and God and Yahweh, for the shepherd for the lamb that said I didn't know more. Needed to said that I was spoken to hear that and can't hide from the fear of God. They would find them unhidden and unhinged and shut the door for the hell's gates and dissipate for the trapped followers and the unsaved. To be content with this is what you never find it needed to behave, and the benefits of this is being given with the having the written the truth and not deception. They let go of what they thought. They had redundancy to dunce. Hats to wear and behold this to beware. Weren't to be when you lost in case of preparations, the scenario, the scenery, the evil wickedly. As to ignite the wick, the candle to the cant. The contracts to bound it for the bound, to sign the Greyhound station that you've been trained for, the conductor for the track record you made to have leftover for the hungry that understand the elements of the table for the content, overstand the situation that sat nations and notions in place to be eaten and served eaten by what we're given for the Garden of Eden. Like a damn rib of Adam with food for thought, for this a narrative for the can we find the dialogue, the table talk, the mannerisms we didn't need and didn't have. Communion or communism. It's the realism. We finally realize when we close our eyes and use the faith.